Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Nasliansky. Today, we are here with Nia Tavoularis, and Nia is from Connections for the Homeless, which is an organization based here in Evanston, but serves throughout northern Cook County. And today, we're going to be having this on video for the response to COVID-19 that's on the skevinston.com website. So you might be watching this on social media right now, but I am also putting this out on the Inside the Skev podcast. So, if you might be listening to this, but, there's a lot of great resources there. But I reached out to Nia because they are doing some amazing things. And I want to talk about their organization. I want to talk about what's going on now. But, to really tip off, what got my attention was seeing that you guys got everybody who is homeless off the streets right now and into hotels who are in Evanston because of the shelter in place. And what an amazing accomplishment. How did you guys do that?
We're actually still kind of asking ourselves that question, Aaron. It is an amazing accomplishment. So, we started as an agency preparing actually pretty early on. If you go to our website and on our coronavirus page, you can actually see a timeline that kind of marks when our senior leadership team first started talking about coronavirus and what we were going to do. We knew early on our population, the population of people that we work with, people experiencing homelessness, they are incredibly vulnerable for a lot of reasons, right? So there's a lot of health disparities. There's a lot of systemic segregation and racism that our folks are dealing with. And so they are constantly getting the brunt of any bad news, whatever that is. And so we knew that our population was going to be affected deeply by coronavirus. So we started working really quickly and early, I would say, in figuring out what we were going to do. And we knew that the only way that you can actually keep people protected from the coronavirus out in the world and also protect the rest of the population is to find ways for people to self-isolate and to find ways for people to shelter. And when you're homeless, there is no shelter and there is no place for you to shelter in place at, right?
Right.
And so we started working as quickly as possible, figuring out our own contingency plans, and also talking to the city of Evanston about what kind of support they could provide. We started calling hotels. We have some relationships with hotels. We started calling them. We started just kind of it was kind of a full court press on figuring out what we were going to do. With the help of the city of Evanston, they helped to identify one hotel in particular that was willing to work with us right away. And just for the sake of trying to protect the hotels and the privacy of folks who are staying in there, I'm not going to say what the names of the hotels are, just
sure.
That's for privacy reasons. But we found one hotel that was willing to work with us right away. And they actually had the entire hotel had pretty much cleared out. And so they had 40 rooms that they were able to give us right away. So we were able to move in 40 folks right then. And then we found another hotel. And then we were able to move in over the course of 2 weeks, about 14, 17 days, we were able to move in over another 100 rooms.
Wow.
And so in total, we're looking at right around 200 people. These are rough numbers, around 200 people that we have sheltered, and about 40 of them are kids that are with their families in those hotels. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing you were able to help them. And I imagine, though, that's a lot of cost involved to reserve those rooms. Are there a lot of people helping to pay for that?
Yeah. So what we refer to as the run rate, which is like the cost above and beyond our daily operations, right? Because as an agency, we're an agency that has about 50 employees before coronavirus started, and we can talk later about what that's going to look like going forward. But above and beyond what it just takes for us to operate day to day, we're looking at about $12,000 a day and extra cost. And so I would be remiss to not say that the city of Evanston has helped us figure out how to get an incredible opportunity at one hotel where we're basically paying $7,000 a week for one hotel. And then the other hotel, they are picking up some of the rooms and we're picking up the rest of the rooms. And so there's hotel cost. So the actual rooms,
right.
is the other thing about sheltering in place is you have to have food brought to you. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually partnering with local restaurants and buying food. Not expensive. The restaurants are not making any money off of this. They will be the first to say that. But it was important to us that we pay for as much as we can so that they can bring their employees back and so they can pay for their costs and their goods. And so we're spending approximately $20 a day per person that we're putting up in hotel. So there's hotel costs, there's food cost, there's some security costs, and then there's the staffing. So we're staffing both of these locations 24 hours a day. There's staff there 24 hours a day. So that run rate's around $12,000 a day for us. We have been fortunate that we actually just kicked off late last week a $500,000 challenge by some board members who've seed funded that for us, some supporters and board members. That's kind of our 2-month push to get us through April and May, is that $500,000 challenge. And we've had some pretty strong response, but you are absolutely right. The cost of this is astounding. And then the long-term cost is going to be significant too, because there's an opportunity here for us to take folks who have been homeless and get them housed. And could be the real blessing in what all of this is. Right.
This time kind of opens up a lot of different opportunities that may not have existed beforehand. Like you said, you guys have ramped up your 24/7. Some of the things I read are even that you're doing it's like full service room service where you're helping people get clothing, wash their clothes, one of the things is washing your hands and being hygienic and everything. You're helping people with that there, with all these things. Where do you see new opportunities as this passes?
Yeah. I think that there's this moment, especially in Northern Cook, for us to look around and say, we have done, as you started off, we've done a really good job of helping to shelter 99% of the homeless people in Northern Cook County, right? We've always kind of talked about, as an agency, we've talked for a long time about what it means to end homelessness, because it can be done, and there's other communities that are doing it. Rockford is doing it. Houston, Texas is doing it. There are other communities that have done an incredible job at working on ending homelessness. And we've been talking about it. And then all of a sudden, in a matter of 3 weeks, oh my God, we've done it. We've kind of done it here. Now, the key is that ending homelessness is not just providing shelter, right? Shelter is part of it, but it's really helping people get into housing, stable housing that they can maintain and afford, whatever that means. And what I think that opportunity for our community is that we are very quickly going to have a choice to make. And we can say, okay, people who are experiencing homelessness, we're glad coronavirus is over. We're glad we gave you that hotel and all that food and laundry service, and you stayed safe and you didn't infect us. Now, are we going to send them back out on the street, or are we going to actually put them into housing and actually end their homelessness? Because that, I think, is where the opportunity is for us as a community, is to look at this and say, we can, we have been given this chance. And I can promise you it's so much cheaper to put people into housing than it is to put them in a hotel. It is so much cheaper.
And then a hospital.
And a hospital, or to have, the fire department dealing with them and EMS dealing with them. We know that chronic homelessness costs between $45,000 and $55,000 a year in cost to taxpayers, right? Putting someone we are on average, for us to take care of someone in what's called permanent supportive housing, including rent, including case management, it's around $15,000 a year.
That's a big savings, and it's much better for everybody.
And everyone can feel really good about it, right?
Yeah, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that is the right thing to do.
Just to get back to the homelessness in general, there's a lot of stereotypes as to why people are homeless.
Yeah.
What is the real facts about why people are homeless, and how does that happen?
Sure. So homelessness comes down primarily to one thing, which is that you cannot afford to pay for your housing. So affordable housing is the real key to ending homelessness and having more affordable housing. Now, for some people, they don't have an income and they're not going to have an income, either because they have a disability or they can't work, or because they're taking care of someone with a disability and so they can't work. And so you have to find ways, communities have to successfully find ways to house people who don't necessarily have income coming in. There are lots of stereotypes about homelessness being driven by substance use disorder, by being driven by mental health issues. And, what we know, first of all, what we know is that if you didn't have a mental health issue before you became homeless, the sheer act of becoming homeless, of losing your home, being put out on the streets, having to live out on the streets and turn to other people's good graces for basic services like a toilet and food and washing your hands, that will give you mental health issues in and of itself, right? And so there's a little bit of like, what comes first? Well, they were mentally ill and then they became homeless, or they became homeless and then they became mentally ill. And if there is a mental illness, which there's, so many Americans walking around with PTSD, with depression, with bipolar, with anxiety issues, all of those things become exasperated with, we'll have to that one out, but you get what I'm saying.
Exasperated.
Thank you. All of those things become, stronger when you're dealing with the stress of homelessness. Okay. And if there is a tendency for any kind of substance use disorder, right? If that was kind of maybe an underlying issue, maybe something that wasn't detrimental, but then you become homeless, then the idea of like numbing that pain of what it is that you were doing, like where your life is. And I think that it's actually interesting, as I have like now regular happy hours online with my friends on like the amount of wine that is being consumed in my house right now is particularly high under this stress, right? And so the myths around substance, certainly there are homeless people with substance use disorder. Certainly there are homeless people with mental health issues. There are also people who are housed with mental health issues and also people who are housed with substance use disorder. And what we have to do is we have to deal with the homelessness, and the homelessness, once that is addressed, that gives you the best opportunity to address anything else. And that's actually something that's become a shift in the service world. It used to be, and in some places it still is, that people could not access services until they were sober or until their mental health issues were in order. Like, we'll give you shelter once you take your medication, or we'll give you shelter once you quit drinking. That is the wrong approach. It never works. What you have to do is you have to give people respite first and a hope, and that's when they can make changes in their lives.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it's like you're punishing people for something that they're dealing with, and it's being exasperated by the fact that they don't have proper shelter.
That's right. Exactly. So there's a philosophy that's called housing first, which any service provider will tell you is the best approach. And it's documented. It's empirical evidence that shows that housing first is the best way to deal with something, which is that you have to get people housed. You have to give them, there are things that human bodies need: shelter, food, and safety. Like, those are the three have to have in order to start functioning. And without them, nothing works. And, we've experienced, even just recently, if I can say just a quick story, there's
Sure.
a nurse who is not, we have a nurse who's on staff for us, but there's a nurse who is a practitioner who has, one of our clients is her patient. And this nurse happens to know one of our volunteers. And the volunteer and the nurse were talking, and the nurse was talking about, she was like, oh my God, we'll just call her Rosie, who's a client who we've just recently put into one of the hotels. And this nurse was saying, she's like, I saw Rosie the other day, and she is a different woman. Like, she's like having a bed to sleep in and a shower and 3 meals a day. She's like, I didn't even recognize her. And this is her nurse talking about that. And part of the reason why she was seeing Rosie was because they wanted to make some adjustments to her medication, because now that she's been in a hotel for 2 weeks, like, she's like healthier again, right? Now, is it perfect?
Big person.
Yeah, it's a different person.
Yeah. I think that, I'm all for capitalism and business and everything else, but I think sometimes that in this country, there's, a lack of compassion for people, and it's very much of a punishment if you're not doing things right.
You've done something wrong. Yes.
Yeah, you've done something wrong. You're living on the streets, and I'm a real estate agent by trade, and sometimes I'm working with people, especially on the rental side, where you get applications and you're like, as the landlord, how can you rent to this person? You don't think that they're going to pay, or they've had issues in the past. And I get it from that standpoint. I've been a landlord too, but there needs to be an adjustment within the market where there's people or organizations that help house people, because it's not fair that people should still stay on the street. There needs to be an option.
Right, exactly. And, we do a lot of work advocating for folks, advocating for people, because what ends up happening, for example, like an eviction, and you probably know this as a realtor, evictions stay on your record forever. Once you have an eviction, like an eviction makes you homeless and then makes you stay homeless, because you can never get rehoused when you have that eviction on your record. So we do a lot of work on eviction prevention. We actually pay people's back rents. We pay back mortgages sometimes to try and keep people as clean as possible. The credit industry, we do a lot of advocacy to landlords, letting folks know that like this credit history is not as transparent of a identifier of somebody's value and their worthiness. Like, it's kind of a number that gets slapped on people that can keep people poor, frankly. I don't think people understand how expensive it is to be poor, right? So when you don't have a credit card that you can give to your phone company, then you end up having, to get your phone service, you end up having to pay more for everything, right? When you have bad credit, everything is higher. Your security deposit's higher. Your move-in fees are higher. Your deposits we helped a woman one time who was living in her car. She had 2 kids who were living with her ex-husband. Her car had been repossessed. We were helping her get her car back. She was paying 33% interest on a $6,000 car that she had to have to get to work. I mean, it was insane. Like that's what keeps poor, those are the quote unquote bad choices
that
made, right?
I feel like in certain ways, the coronavirus is going to inflame that, because you look at, people who don't have a car who are taking public transportation, and I'm all for public transportation, but sometimes, if you're in the suburbs and you want to get to a job, you might be taking several buses and trains for hours, and that is a huge cost to you. And then on top of that, now there's the risk of getting tremendously sick.
Right. Yes. I mean, we've seen the disparities, right? I think that is going to be part of the post-corona fallout, the disparities in who's dying and who's getting sick. I was at the office the other day, because although we're working from home mostly, like we're still coming in and out, and I ran over to the Whole Foods in Evanston, and it was first of all, it was kind of this surreal experience, but it was filled with Black and brown people doing shopping for other people. Right. And these disparities, the people who can't afford not to work, the people who, those are the ones who are the people who don't have jobs that let them work at home. Like that is who is dying and getting sick with coronavirus. And I think you're absolutely right. Like I think in a post-corona world, I hope that we recognize the value of people who are in these like low income jobs, and how fragile their lives really are, and how much we depend on, how much everyone depends on one another.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think, the longer this goes on, the more people that are going to fall into that layer. The organization though started before all this. Who started it, and what got, people motivated to do this?
I love it. I thank you for asking that. I love the origin story of Connections for the Homeless. So Connections for the Homeless is a 35-year-old organization. We started back in the 80s by some crazy baby boomers when they were out doing their baby booming thing. But we were actually started by a group of faith leaders who in the 80s, there was actually this big bloom of public homelessness and sleeping outside. Because you might recall that in the early 80s, there was this dismantling of the welfare system and this kind of effort to disrupt the quote unquote welfare queen, right? And what that ended up doing is there was a lot of closing of public housing and there was a lot of closing of mental health support. And then everyone was pushed out onto the streets. So it's the mid 80s. There's some baby booming faith leaders and they're like, whoa, there are a lot of homeless people and sleeping in our parks in Evanston. We got to do something about this. And so they gathered together and one of them was kind of the ringleader at the time's First Baptist Church. And he was like, we have this basement space. We're going to open up this basement space for the shelter. And the city of Evanston got back and was like, no. You're not opening up a homeless shelter in downtown Evanston. That's just going to be a magnet for homeless people. And so the faith leaders there's a bunch of protests and they kind of go back to the drawing board. And then they came back and they said, we're going to open up a 24-hour prayer vigil for anyone at the basement of this church. And sometimes when you pray for 24 hours, you need some cots to take some naps. And so that's what we're going to do. And that's actually how we got started, was this kind of civil disobedience of humans taking care of humans, which we absolutely love. Since then, right, so that was 35 years ago. Since then, the agency has been kind of had its ups and downs. There was a pretty dark moment in the agency's recent history with the state budget crisis. It almost made us shut our doors. This is back in 2015. Since at that moment, there's been a real kind of revival of the organization. There's a new executive director since post-state budget crisis. She's brought in a new leadership team, and the agency we've been growing exponentially every year, bringing on services. So we do three things in a non-corona world. Eviction prevention, which is homelessness prevention. We do shelter. So we've run Hilda's Place, which a lot of people have taken their kids there for Boy Scouts, or their faith communities have come and cooked dinner there. So Hilda's Place is an 18-bed shelter for people who identify as male. And then we have a housing program that houses about 200 folks in and around Evanston, Skokie, Niles, Des Plaines, et cetera. That's what we typically do. Since then, we have completely turned everything upside down. We're still doing our prevention, and we're actually amping up our prevention services because we know that homelessness prevention, there's a lot of that coming.
Oh, yeah.
Created a brand new emergency shelter, a new 20-bed emergency shelter. We've taken over the fellowship hall in the church that we were founded in, and we've turned that into an emergency shelter space for 20 people. And then, of course, we're sheltering 200 people in these hotels. Plus, we still have our regular 200 folks that we have in housing, which we're bringing food actually out to them. We're having Kurt's Cafes delivering food to them that we're paying for a couple times a week so that they can safely shelter in space. Plus, we're doing our drop-in services. It's insane. The amount of work that we're doing right now is really unbelievable.
Yeah. And how many employees do you have again right now?
About 45.
Wow.
It's not a pace that's sustainable. We are in the midst of trying to hire folks. I think we're bringing on 5 new people next week. We have to hire more staff, and we have to hire more case managers too. In order for us to get to this dream of taking all these folks living in hotels and getting them into stable housing, we need case managers to help us do that work. So we're in a big push for hiring probably between 10 to 15 folks to help us do all of this work.
And you have volunteers as well.
We have over 2,000 volunteers a year who work with us.
Wow. Yeah. And how long have you been with the organization?
So I've been with the organization just about 3 years now.
And you were in media beforehand, right?
I was. So I'm a fundraiser. I've always been a fundraiser. Most recently, before I was at Connections, I was fundraising for public radio here in Chicago for WBEZ. And then prior to that, I did fundraising for another homeless services agency in the city called Teen Living Programs, and now it's called Ignite. So my background is in fundraising.
Yeah. Do you enjoy what you're doing right now? I'm sorry. Do you enjoy what you're doing right now?
Enjoy it?
Yeah. Fulfill.
I love it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is exhausting. And as you know, as the chief fundraiser for the organization, yesterday I was in helping people take showers, get into their showers. I was helping unload food from food pantry stuff, so it's all hands on deck, but it's incredibly rewarding, right? Because part of the work is showing part of what we do as an agency is we are the way in which we are the vehicle by which our community gets to take care of one another. And that's a real privilege, right? So when people donate to us financially, when they give food for us to give out in our food pantry, when they donate women's underwear, which we can never have enough of, like that is our community trying to help. And we get to help be the translators of that help and actually do the work on the ground. And oftentimes with the community at our side as volunteers. And that's a real privilege, and it's inspiring, and it's exhausting. It's a lot of pressure, but I feel really fortunate.
Oh yeah. It's amazing what you're doing. And also I don't want to, forget about this. You're putting yourselves at risk by being out there. I mean, and yes, I'm sure you're taking precautions not to catch coronavirus, but you're still out there.
Yeah, we are. I do feel like I'm glad you bring that up, because not for me personally, but for our staff, like I do feel like that we are first responders in a way that people aren't always thinking about. We have staff members who are in very close quarters with folks who are very vulnerable. Our staff is very vulnerable. And I don't know if people think of that, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, God love our healthcare community, and what's amazing is that in one of the hotels where we have so many folks, participants and staff, on another floor, it's filled with healthcare workers, right? And folks who the hospitals are putting up in emergency housing. And our people are right there with them. And so, yes, it is, we're taking lots of precautions. We've gotten our own sources of PPEs, and we have all the, we're doing temperature checks and all of that kind of stuff. But it has to be, but it feels like we're first responders, just like EMS people, just like nurses, just like doctors, like taking care of our people, because that's what our job is.
It's amazing what you're doing. And then, just to also make sure people know, I mean, you are working throughout Northern Cook County. It's not just Evanston. You are helping people throughout the area, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think of the folks that we had coming to us, who we're helping to put in hotels, there's certainly a good number of them are Evanston folks, people that in the community. A good number of them are from Skokie, from Niles, from Des Plaines, from Glenview, from Glencoe, like all along the northern suburbs. Certainly some from the city, right? I think that the city is also doing some work on trying to put folks in hotels, but it's a much bigger operation, and I don't know how successful all of that has been. So word travels quickly throughout agencies. When people are like, there's like a light, and then it's like everyone flocks to the light.
Yeah.
We are definitely, we've great partners over in the western suburbs. I think our friends at Housing Forward, I think they've housed like 80 people in hotels. So there is a huge need out there, and we are definitely serving beyond Evanston. The people that we are serving, there's a lot of Evanston folks, but there are a lot of folks who are not, because there's no other place for them to go. I think that's what's important for people to understand.
And then, I mean, you have some of these partners that are helping you. So like the Niles Township Food Pantry and the health services in Skokie and Evanston, different places too, are helping, right?
Well, right. So we have longstanding partnerships with those guys, where we do a lot of referrals back and forth. I think with, I know that the Skokie Health Department, Skokie Human Services Department, we have a great relationship with that team and with the Niles team. We have a great relationship with a lot of the police departments around the area. They know us. They know our outreach workers. They work with us a lot. And we're doing a lot of referrals back and forth. There's a lot of other agencies like the Moran Center, Family Focus, places like that, where they actually were sending their folks to us when we were kind of, getting this first tranche of people into the hotels, because they didn't have the capacity to do it themselves, and they know they needed a place to stay. So we were also serving other service providers as well.
Wow. It's incredible what you guys are doing. If you're in the community, how can you help Connections for the Homeless?
Yeah. So I would encourage you to visit our website. So the website is connect the number 2 home.org. On there, you can see all about our COVID response.
I'm going to show everybody that. I'm going to share the screen
Sure.
so everyone can see that right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So connect2home.org. And so you can see right away, you can see our response to COVID just right there. And then if you look, you can see the read more about and then the how you can help.
Donate.
Back up.
Okay.
Right there. So those two, and that where it says Connections is the agency in the northern suburbs. If you look right there, those two, and then one more, a little bit down, efforts on the front lines, right there. See that read more?
Mm-hmm.
Read more about our current actions and then how you can help. Both of those will tell you what we're doing, how we're doing it, and then you can read our press releases. On this one, if you scroll down to the bottom, it talks about who we're sheltering. You can donate. That's all the stuff that's going on. You can see we'll have this in there soon. There's that daily activities log. And then,
and one thing that I also saw here was some of the restaurants that have been helping this page here. So you've got like Bagel Art Cafe, Candlelight Chicago, Kurt's Cafe, Fat Shallot, Feast and Imbibe. Imbibe, thank you. Found, Barn Steakhouse, GGO's, Hecky's, Prairie Grass Cafe, Protein Bar and Kitchen, Nasteria Stato.
Yeah.
And Nacorn and Coy are also donating a portion of their meals, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, I just remember Firehouse should be listed on there too. So they're also another one. So I would say if you want to help, there's a couple things you could do. Visit the website. Start following us on social media. We've recently kind of amped up our social media efforts where we're posting all the time what our immediate needs are, who our supporters are, how people are helping out. So helping us spread the word is really important. And then support it, right? So it's $12,000 a day. It's a huge amount of money, but we are doing it. And the community has been incredibly responsive so far, financially supporting us. I will tell you the secret to philanthropy is that it feels really good to help organizations that are doing good work. And so making a contribution to some place that you know is doing good stuff, it is as good for you as it is for them. And then, keep an eye out on our needs. Our food pantry is getting, every day people are coming in from the neighborhoods. It's open to anyone. Our food pantry is open to anyone who walks in. We will give you food. You don't have to,
Where is it located?
Sure. It's at 2121 Dewey. It's our administrative offices. So 2121 Dewey in Evanston, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 4. We have an open food pantry that's really well stocked because our community supports it. So those are the real takeaways, right? Visit the website, follow us on social, give us some money or donate some items. And then also we have some specific COVID volunteer opportunities where people can actually do volunteer work at home. They can do volunteer work in an isolated space with us. And so there's no reason why people can't help.
Well, it's amazing. I could talk with you for probably another hour. But I know
I could talk for another hour.
I'm sure I can too. But I know you've got important work to do, and I so much appreciate your time coming on Inside the Skev today. And I hope that the work that you guys are doing is not necessary, but I know it is. We need to support organizations like Connections for the Homeless and others around. So stay well. And
thank you, Aaron. Thank you. And thanks to your listeners and viewers. We appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.